Alright, class, this is Mr. Adams, and here I'm going to introduce your new project that I introduced in class, the podcast assignment. Now, this is just to give you kind of an example of what will be happening. I am doing this in the GarageBand app. It's the app that you guys all have on your iPads that we'll be utilizing when recording our podcast. The structure is going to be something similar to what I'm showing you guys with how I want some intros. I want you guys to introduce yourself, introduce your project, and just what exactly is going on. And then you can get down to the nitty gritty like I'm going to do. Basically, I'm just going to give a rundown through the rubric, give my thoughts and opinions, just like you're going to do when you're talking about your chapter. So essentially, like we talked about, 2 to 4 people in your groups. That's what I want to see. That I think is a good number of people in which you can collaborate together. I will assign you guys your chapters in class. It's going to be chapters we already read, so this is going to be a review type thing. So you might already know some things about your chapter, things that you might want to talk about, but I still want you guys to go back through, read, and take notes so that you can kind of, not necessarily, but basically write a script for how you want your podcast to go. Because I don't want you guys to sit down to record and then you're flying by the seat of your pants because you can't think of what to talk about because you didn't reread the chapter when we read it 2 weeks ago. So essentially, you sit down by yourself, look over the chapter, gather your information, and then once you do that, we can reconvene as groups, and that is when we'll begin the podcast recording. Now, the thing about podcasts is it's natural. It kind of just happens. So rather than rehearsing with your groups, make sure you know your information so that when you sit down to record it, it comes across that way rather than coming across as a scripted type thing. Which, I mean, it is essentially scripted, but just a very, very vague framework is what you guys are going to have to work with, which is what makes it interesting. And is what will make it more interesting for the class when we listen to it to review for the test next week. So I appreciate you guys listening to my little bit of a podcast here. Obviously, your guys is going to be much longer, but I do expect you guys to do it in the GarageBand app and to utilize the resources that we have. If you have any questions, let me know, and we will figure it out together. I appreciate it. It's Mr. Adams signing off from the podcast.